Hi everyone, so this is going to be our last lesson for this unit for numeracy. So this is lesson 1.7 and we're just talking about order of operations with our rational numbers, so our fractions. So by the end of the lesson you should be able to follow your order of operations using fractions. So, get my pen here. Okay, so we're going to look at a couple of fractions and exponents first, just to make sure that you remember your rules for those. So for the first couple of these, I'm going to write it out in expanded form first, just so that we can remember what these actually look like. So this would be 1/3, but we're writing it 4 times. And then, oops. We're writing it 4 times, not writing the number 4. So then we just want to follow our rules that we talked about yesterday with multiplying our fractions. So we can just multiply across the top and then multiply across the bottom. So in this case, right across the top is just 1, and then on the bottom we have, 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 3 is 27, and 27 times 3 is 81. If we try this for the next one, again, remember your rules when we're talking about exponents and negative numbers. So we have brackets here and a negative in the brackets, which means we can look at the exponent to tell us what our final sign is going to be. So in this case, it's an odd number here. So that means that our final answer should be negative. So here, I'm not going to write it out the long way. We know our answer is going to be negative, and then we're just going to do, another way you actually could write this would be, if you wanted to remind yourself, would be -5, oops, I don't need brackets, -5 to the power of 3 over 6 to the power of 3, because that also means the same thing. That might help you remember to do the bottom as well. So we're going to have -125, right? 5 times 5 times 5 over, and 6 times 6 times 6 is 216. Okay. And then this last one here, again, following our rules for exponents, the negative's on the outside of the brackets, so that means no matter what, our answer is going to be negative, because that's like timesing the whole thing by -1. So we know we're going to have a negative here, and then we can just use our exponent and do it for top and bottom. So 3 times 3 is 9, and 8 times 8 is 64. Okay. So now that we kind of refreshed our memory about how to do this with exponents, let's take a look at our order of operations, and we're going to go through 6 different examples that hopefully can get you started on this. So if we look at question A, right, we have to remember our order of operations. So this is our BEDMAS rules. So in this first one, we have some adding, but then remember that brackets right here, that means multiplying. So we have to do our multiplying first. So I'm just going to keep my -1/2, keep my plus sign, and then right in this multiplication here, we can actually do what we were doing yesterday, and we can reduce right in here. So I can go 3 goes into itself 1 time, and 3 goes into 6 2 times. 5 and 4 we can't reduce, and then we can look tops and bottoms, so 1 and 4 and 5 and 2, it won't reduce any farther. So then we can just multiply across the top, which is 5, and multiply across the bottom, it's 8. Okay, so on our next step, now we're adding, so we're going to need that common denominator. Okay, so again, draw your line. 8 would be our common denominator in this case. Okay, and then we can, right over here, we want to multiply everything on this side by 4. So 4 times -1 is 4, plus 5. So -4 plus 5 is going to give me 1/8. Okay. All right, so if we take a look at B here, we've got 3 minus, And then we've got 5/6 divided by 1/3. So BEDMAS rules here, we have to take care of that divided by first. So I'm just going to leave my 3. I'm going to copy my 5/6, and then remember our rules for dividing. We have to switch the divide to multiply, and then we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So flip that fraction upside down. Okay. We still can't do anything with the first 3, so just copy it. But over here, we can reduce in our fractions. So 5 and 1 won't, but 3 and 6 will. So 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 6 2 times. Okay, so then we can just multiply. So 5 times 1 is 5, and 2 times 1 is 2. So again, we're going to need a common denominator here. So that would just be 2, because this is like our 3/1. So over on this one, we had to multiply by 2 here. Okay, so 3 times 2 is 6, and the second number we don't have to change because 2 was already the denominator. So now subtract our numerators. 6 minus 5 is 1, and we leave the denominator the same. Okay, moving on. So over here we have some brackets and some dividing. So remember, order of operations says to do the brackets first. So in this first set of brackets here, I'm going to find a common denominator. So I'm going to use 6. Up here, right, we had to multiply this side by 3. So we've got 3 plus, and on this side we had to multiply by 2. So 3 plus 2, and keep it in brackets. Keep your divided by sign. You can also work at this bracket at the same time. Okay, so this one has divided by, so we're going to have a 4th, and then multiply by that reciprocal. Okay, so back to our first set of brackets, we can simplify that top there. 3 plus 2 is 5 over 6. I'm going to keep my divided by sign in the middle, and then this side we can multiply. So 1 times 3 is 3, and 4 times 1 is 4. And then again here we're dividing, so we have to make sure that we multiply by the reciprocal. And then we can see if we can reduce at all here. We can a little bit, so this 4 and 6 will reduce. We can divide both by 2, so 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. Now remember, we can't reduce if we're going horizontally, so these 3's can't reduce to any smaller. Okay, so now we can just multiply across the top. 5 times 2 is 10, and on the bottom 3 times 3 is 9. And we can just leave it as an improper fraction like we were doing yesterday. Okay, so moving on, I've got 3 more examples here. Okay, so these ones are a little bit tougher, a little longer. So again, if we look at this part D here, right away we have some multiplying, and then adding, and then more multiplying. So we want to take care of the multiplication before we take care of the addition. So let's see right away, with these first 2, we can actually reduce a little bit here. So right, this 2 can go into 4, so 2 goes into 2 one time, and 2 goes into 4 2 times. 1 and 5 can't reduce, so we can go ahead and write our answer here. Careful that this was a negative, so 1 times negative 2 is negative 2, and 1 times 5 is 5. And then put our plus sign. On this next one, before we multiply, we're going to want to change that mixed fraction to an improper fraction. So I'm just going to rewrite my 2 over 3, and then I'm going to do 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 9 over 5. Okay, so copy again what you're not using, and then we can do some reducing over here on the second set of multiplication. With the 3 and the 9. So 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 9 3 times. 2 and 5, we can't reduce those anymore. Okay, so let's multiply here. So we've got 2 times 3 is 6, and 1 times 5 is 5. Oh, this one's nice. So we already have a common denominator here. They both are over 5. So we've got -2 plus 6 over 5. -2 plus 6 is just 4, and we leave our 5. Okay. All right. So if we take a look at this next one, we got to start with our brackets first, so we have to leave this multiplying. So I'm just going to leave this 1/3 on the outside, and then in our brackets here, we're adding, so we're going to need a common denominator, which I would make 4. The first fraction, it already has 4, so just leave its 1. And then this one we multiplied both by 2, so put a 2 there. And then plus, we could actually take care of this exponent right now just because it's not affecting anything. So 5 over 9 to the power of 0. If we remember, anything to the power of 0 equals 1. Okay. So I'm going to leave my third out here. I'm going to add inside my brackets. So 1 plus 2 is 3 over 4, and then keep this plus 1 on the outside. Over here we can reduce. Okay, so 1 and 4 can't, but the 3 can go into 3 one time. And then we can multiply across the top. 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 times 4 is 4, and this is plus 1. Well, we need a common denominator over here, so let's make it 4, because this is like 1 over 1. So we're going to leave that as a 1, and then over here we're going to multiply both of these by 4, so plus 4, and we end up with 5 over 4. Okay, last one here. So we've got some dividing, but then we have an exponent. So we have to deal with the exponent first. So I'm just going to leave that 4 over 5 and the divided by sign, and then I'm going to deal with my exponent. So remember, exponent goes to the top and the bottom. So 2 to the power of 2 is 4, and 3 to the power of 2, right? 3 times 3 is 9. Next, we want to switch our sign, right? So multiply by the reciprocal, so then flip that one over, so 9 over 4. Over here, we should be able to reduce a little here, right? We've got a 4 and a 4 across from each other, so those are going to reduce to 1s, and the 9 and the 5 we can't, so we just leave them. And then we can multiply, so 1 times 9 is 9, and 5 times 1 is 5. And that's it. We're done. So make sure that you take a look at the homework questions in the practice. Also look at the quiz review. Okay. There's some more challenging questions in there that I would suggest that you try as well. Okay. And let me know if you have any questions.